listening to the Spectacle Podcast with Garrett Leight.
I hate to say it. If I had to choose between Paris and Vegas right now, I think I might choose Vegas.
Why?
Because I have kids and it's so far away and I hate fucking traveling. I've been doing this for
yeah.
20 years.
Oh, yeah, no, it's true. It's true. No, I know what you mean.
There's no comparison between Paris and Vegas.
You think about the logistics.
But like right now, I'm
you think like a dad.
Well, also not just a dad. I feel like post-pandemic, just like traveling is just it's gotten so bad. No? Was it good before?
That's a good question.
I feel like everybody's more miserable. The flight attendants are more miserable.
Well, they surely the companies that try to gouge you so much.
Correct. It's so expensive.
At first, they wanted everybody to use plane, so they made it very enticing and inviting. Food was free.
Right.
They never hustle you. Right. You had a big seat. You always had room. You didn't have that first class. Like it was a lot more like, please come. Like,
right.
If you ever watch a movie from the 70s and 80s and people are in economy, you never see people in first class. It's a new thing.
First class didn't lay down flat. Yeah, it was not that much better.
No, and you were in economy and he looked great and you had like silverware
right.
and it was great. And as soon as people started using that as a mode of transportation, the company, I spoke once, I sat down next to a guy that was working for Air France and we struck a conversation for 10 hours and he kind of opened up
10
about...
hours?
Yeah, we kind of opened up. He was flying to LA just on a personal trip. And
right.
he said to me, basically, the company is doing everything unbearable. So it forces yourself to have a program with the airline to get upgraded. And it's all about
add-ons.
It's all about you want to go to business class. You'll do anything, even you can't afford it.
Yeah.
It's so bad in economy that's what you want to do. And that's what the airline company came. And he said he's the guy that designed the seats.
Right.
And I looked at him. I said, "Dude, this is not comfortable." Or it's like, I know. He said basically what they're doing every year. They like figure out how can you just add one more row.
Right.
Because it's like that's so.
Well, because economies of scale. So they look at every flight across the whole year. And it's like, if we had one more row, that's $100 million more dollars.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's all bottom lines.
It's all data and bottom lines. So.
Yeah. So now, it is a pain in the ass.
That's
and also
saying.
for you with your wife and 2 kids, if you do business class, it's like 30 grand.
I never have taken my kids business class.
No, I know. But imagine if you did. It's like, or the nanny and like,
it's outside of mine.
Yeah, but it would be 30, 40 grand for
sure.
just one trip. I have this friend of mine who is quite rich, but every time he goes on vacation with his wife and 2 kids, and for a week, he say, I spend 150 grand for a week of just with the nanny, the rental. Everybody has to be in first class. The wife doesn't want the kids to be away in case there's... It's
gotten really crazy.
Absurd.
It's
absurd.
It's like Marina and I have had to just look at all that. Like traveling is so expensive, and we used to do a couple vacations a year, and now we're like one. We can only do one,
and that's not enough for our well-being.
No, it's not good for your health. But it's the world we're living in now. Like it's people. I don't know if people talk about it enough or whatever.
I mean, we do. The hamster wheel is going faster and faster. Like the hamster wheel, because we all accepted that we are on the hamster wheel.
Sure.
We're all in this together. We got to work. But now it goes so fast that the hamsters are dying. Or the hamster needs supplement. The hamster needs weed. The hamster needs pharmaceutical pills.
And
growing up, I'm 49. Growing up in my early 20s in LA, I rarely heard about people talking about having to take antidepressants, sleeping pills.
Of course not.
And now for the last 10, 15 years, it's everybody. Normal people that are not druggies, people that don't even have crazy lives, people that don't even have dangerous life. They're not taking risks. They're 9 to 5, but they still need a sleeping pill. They still need anti-anxiety. Wow. Like that's what I mean. Like we're like, as hamsters, we're like one dies, and with so many people on the planet that one person doesn't mean anything to anyone, especially a big entity.
That's so sad.
It is sad, but it is the same. Even us as human, you go downtown, you see all those homeless. I feel bad sometimes for not feeling anything for them. I accepted that that's their fate.
At this point,
this point. And it's like, I grew up in Morocco where you never really, if you see somebody in the street, you stop, like it's old school. Like you help people, like, people dismembered, people with no legs. All those people live in the street. There's no such thing as a place to put those people. So you live in society with people that are hardship all the time. You see it in your face. We're not hiding our people. And therefore, you always want to help. Like when you see, I remember being a kid, and there was a kid that was no more legs, and he was on the board. And we talked to him, we played, and everybody helped him. He was not somebody we didn't converse with. He was part of society.
Yeah.
And now in America, obviously the utmost individualistic society in the world, we just discard those people. And
Right.
you and I will walk around with a $10 latte, go back to streaming our Netflix, and we step on top of people that are homeless. We completely dehumanized.
But I will say the thing, yeah, we are dehumanized. But you just brought back a memory for me. I remember the first time I went to Eastern Europe, I had never seen like the way that the sort of like a homeless person is there. There's so it's like it feels more like singular and like really anguish is the word that comes to mind. Like I remember I went to
Also temporary.
no, but like I remember I went to maybe it was Prague, and the way that they would stand, like there would be a cup in front of them and they would be like in a praying position, like right in front of their cup. Whereas here it's like it's actually like a whole community. Like I've become desensitized to it because I'm like, they seem fine. Like they're running. There's so many of them. They're all interacting. Like if you drive down Skid, yeah, it's like a sub world right in front of you. You kind of just become desensitized. Like you do think you're like, I should have got to drive down, 7th and
and San Pedro.
but they don't really. They're like kind of all like.
I'll tell you a story. They don't. They're within their world. I remember one night. There's a beautiful Art Deco building there with a lot loft space. It's the same architect that did the Chateau Marmont. And I had this friend that had a space there, a photographer. And I went to visit him for whatever reason. I can't remember what it was. And then at night, we decided to step out and go to Main Street from San Pedro to go have food. And we stepped out at 9 p.m., like on Skid Row, and we walked to the restaurant. And where Blossom used to be there on Main, or something like that. It was, anyway. And we walked through all the homeless crowd. I could tell my friend is Vietnamese and he does it because that's where he lives every day. But me, I was a bit apprehensive.
Yeah.
And what I found out through that 15-minute walk through all of them, we never got looked at once. We never got addressed.
Yeah.
We were walking through their world, but there was no connection to us whatsoever. Right. It's like being on a different planet. Wow, it was shocking that nobody held us. Nobody was like, hey, what's up? Nobody asked us for money.
Or look at you crazy.
No, everybody was doing their own thing. Maybe we got lucky, could have gotten worse.
I feel anxiety just hearing this story.
No, yeah.
I need one of those antidepressants.
Yeah, exactly. But you're like, you need an edible. But we walked by and it was like, wow, it's like they've completely given up on our society. They could tell we're not one of them.
Right.
And that was it. And I have a dear friend of mine from when I arrived in LA who was a very successful hairdresser. Dated Alicia Silverstone at the height of her career and had a beautiful Hollywood life, made like in the mid-90s, he would make like 10 grand a month for just being a hairdresser. And he's been homeless for over 10 years.
Wow.
I see him, he's always on Gower and Sunset. I picked him up before. He used to come see me at Bar Maman and he had no more teeth. He would put like a piece of white plastic.
I haven't ever heard anything like this.
Yeah, my friend Moise, and he got strung out on drugs and he never wanted to step out of it. I remember one day he was with me and we were roommates. He was really my homie. And I was like, hey, come to the house, take a shower, just spend a week at the house. He wanted nothing to do with that. He absolutely wanted nothing to do. He told me the craziest story.
I can almost appreciate that to an extent, though, or just like
he was like, I can't get clean. If I get clean, I get on the streets. If I get clean with you and I get back on the street, they're gonna smell me like I just arrived and they're gonna beat me up. Because basically, what he was telling me, it's territorial. So sometimes I was like, where do you stay? He said, well, I got to keep it moving because a lot of homeless kind of, those encampments, they become like small gangs. Not gangs,
they have their own economy, their own system, their own hierarchy.
Like imagine if you're a loner homeless.
Yeah.
You don't have
you got to be careful.
You got to be, because he's kind of a loner. He's always was an introverted type.
Right.
And he doesn't really have a crew. And so he's sometimes he would stay somewhere and would just get beat up. Like he said, like a bunch of like African-American homeless would come and beat him up. Then white homeless. It's kind of like Walking Dead, the way he was describing it. Like you're alone and you have to.
It's a really dark start to our conversation, but it's the truth.
But it's the truth. It's the city we live in. And it's like, unless we talk about it and understand it, at the end of the day, they're just human and they're making best of their situation.
Right.
The same as you and I are doing. We just stayed on the wheel.
Yeah.
A lot of people said no to the wheel. At the end of the day, they are the true revolutionary of our society, the homeless. They're the one that say, we're not going to participate in whatever this bullshit is. For us, for you as a parent, this is life. Life always carries on. This is the evolution. That's where we are.
Right.
But those people said no more.
Yeah.
For whether they're crazy, whether they're on drugs, whether they just don't want to participate. And there's a beauty to that.
That's kind of what I was saying. The appreciation part.
Yeah, there's appreciation to the fact that's like, those people have had enough.
Yeah.
And when I lived in Venice, my last spot on Flower and 7th.
Yeah, some
during
bad
COVID,
shit happened.
Oh, I had crazy. We had a kid OD in front of the house. They put the white sheet on him. It took they had to wait for the mom.
But
to
also,
come.
there was like another violent kind of person in front of the house. It was like,
oh yeah, they
was
come
strapped.
and stole packages, and they made this guy had made like a middle-aged type of like a stick with a fucking chain and a ball, like a metal ball. And he was this gay,
Like middle-aged.
Yeah,
You're saying like
middle-aged,
an old weapon.
An old weapon. He made that, and he was the LGBTQ guy, and he had the flag on the campment, and he was ruthless, and he ran that campment. And every new guy that would come in, I would catch like conversation that they had, and they had a generator going every night. And I was like, what the fuck are they doing with the generator? What do they need a generator for? Come to find out, I had a handyman. It was an old gangster from Venice that came to work. It was like, bro, you know what they're doing with the generator? I said, no. I said, they're cooking meth. And once he was telling me that, it was like basically a Alpo where they were making like crystal meth in the spot. And then you would see a bunch of out-of-state cars and like cartel-looking guys just come on and park there.
Whoa.
And at the same time, prostitution. Like I came back from DJing and one night and I saw him give head to another dude in the car. And like, so they was like, and police knows all of that.
So-
they drive by and they don't do anything. They accept that it's a sub-society.
So that you left Venice in that era, but
Oh, I
like
had to
when we
leave.
met each other, we were in Venice. There was still, it was just different. Like Venice has always had like,
We're talking about Venice 2005.
yeah, it wasn't bad at all. It was not
was
as violent.
great.
It was great, but I'm saying we
We-
still had homeless. It just they're
Well, the homeless at that time were the guy who
There was
the
that-
Grateful Dead surfer dude that said no to society. The real, you could tell.
That's
they
what I'm
said no.
saying.
But they were not homeless, like strung out, walking like
some of them
zombies.
kind of. I mean, I'm always apprehensive because in the event that they are on drugs, they can be unpredictable. But we like working on Abbot Kinney, right? Because I did every single day for many years. It was like a revolving door of the same people, and they were mostly just nonviolent, annoying, a little bit strung out, or like what you just mentioned, the best kind, where they're just like, I'm doing my own thing, I give
Yeah.
up.
Living
None
in
of the
a
violence,
RV.
none of the business side of things, none of the meth factory. Like
No.
it was just so different.
An ex-colleague of mine of KCRW who still lives in Venice is a surfer at the corner of Rose and Main Street. He was jogging one morning and he was just, waiting at the light, kind of like staying in jog. And there was this homeless next to him. And this homeless guy just, for whatever reason, jumped on him and started strangling him. He was having a crazy
Random act of
hallucination.
violence.
Yeah. And I was reading this article in the New York Times about PCP, which is this new crystal meth that they get high on. And the 3 side effects are hoarding, violence, and paranoia. Hoarding, we all see that for our eyes. Like you wonder, if you're homeless, why do you need to just have
Right.
so much stuff?
Yeah, we visibly see that. Yeah.
Why do you need so much stuff? Like if you're homeless, you would want to just be out with like owning stuff.
Right.
But you don't really. You just want more stuff. And then the paranoia aspect and the violence aspect we see. Well, I hear from my friend Moise when I haven't seen him in a while. It's been maybe 2 years, but I have another friend that just ran into him, so I know he's still alive. But yeah, he tells us the craziest story. He's a guy like us that was in Hollywood. This guy introduced me to Leonardo DiCaprio in the mid-90s. He was
Wild.
friend with all the Rod Stewart's kids. Like we used to go out clubbing. It was this really good-looking Tunisian man from France, hairdresser. And yeah, he was suave and he became a homeless.
So,
It's
I
crazy.
want to transition. I
Yeah,
think
of
you
course,
just
of
gave me
course.
the opportunity. Let's talk a little bit about this
swap.
amazing era that you were part of when you came over to LA.
Oh, in 95.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So what brought you to Los Angeles? I mean, I haven't really even introduced you. You're like a music aficionado, connoisseur, my favorite track selector and music historian that I know because you
you.
know music that I don't know, but I love the genre and you turn me on to shit. So can you walk me through maybe like late teens and your relationship with music and what brought you to LA and then this Hollywood era that you were a part of?
So I moved to LA in 95. I graduated from high school. At the time, my last year of high school was in Hong Kong. My mom and stepdad live up there. I arrived here for one summer. I had $300 and my sister lived here for like the last 2 or 3 years, and she had broken up with her high school sweetheart that she had followed here. She had a roommate and she said to me, yeah, come here and just spend a month, but you can only stay for a month on the couch. And
Like Brad Pitt in True Romance.
yeah, exactly. With the bong and everything.
I brought that movie up earlier today too, but okay. Yeah.
So I arrived there. I arrived here, and I had one contact that my brother had met when he visited like a couple of summers before he visited my sister, and he walked on Main Street. He walked into a store called 26 Red. 26 Red was like a Orange County surf brand, like what Stussy is now without being cool or talented.
95.
Yeah, the store was around like in the early 90s to mid 90s, and I had that one contact that was not my sister, and I called that guy. He was Jonathan Abrams, beautiful brother from New York, and I say, "Oh, I'm Eric's baby brother, and I'm here. I just arrived." He said, "Come by the store," and he gave me a job right on the spot. Like he was
working retail.
Yeah, working in retail. It was like, "You want to stay here?" I was 20 at the time. I didn't really want to go to. I wanted to go to film school here, but it was way too expensive to go to AFI. And I just didn't know. So I got straight into like retail. I was already a DJ. I brought some records with me, buying records. And everything happened super fast. Like everything was easy in 95 in LA. It was not like New York or Paris where...
You're also a very handsome French dude at the time. You don't
Yes,
need, you don't,
in
like you
LA
must have done some modeling and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did. That's how. But basically, the funny story about that is when I first arrived here, I was like hip hop head. 95, I had like the Chronic. I had like Snoop Dogg. I was a hip hop head,
So you knew,
And so I arrived in LA, and I told my sister, I want some fucking Chronic. I was a pothead. I was like, I want to. So there was a French woman who's not with us anymore, Vincent, and she was the one selling weed to the French community that my sister's friends that I had met was like, that's who you got to call to just get your weed. So I called this French girl. I said, "Hey, I just arrived. I want some weed." And she's like, "Come over to the crib." She was on Carson and Sunset, one of those beautiful craftsmen on the same block that Hugh Grant got caught getting a blowjob that one night. The same block, yeah, that's a Hollywood block right there.
Okay.
And I go there to buy weed from her, and we start conversation. At the same time, there's this French woman there, beautiful blonde, green-eyed model with a baby in her arm, hot pants and a joint, and she's smoking weed, and she's got that baby, and she's like, "Oh, my husband owns LA Models," and she's like, "Have you ever modeled?" I said, "No. What is modeling?" Like, you have to realize in France, people don't really give you compliments. It's not really, people will, if you look cute or you have something good going on, they're going to find what's bad about you. They're going to find the one thing that's bad about you and be like, that's what they're going to talk.
French.
Super French.
I love
it's
that.
like the highly critical thinking education.
Yeah.
It's like, I recognize this is great, but let's
I'm gonna
find
tear
the
it down.
thing. Yeah. And so this girl, Corinne, who's still one of my dearest friends, she said to me, "Oh, come by the agency." So I went to buy weed, and I got a contact of like a modeling agency, and I went there, I did a photo shoot, and they gave me a visa for 6 years. So within the first 2 weeks I arrived here, my sister could not believe it. She was like, "You're a lucky motherfucker."
Yeah. 2 weeks.
And 2 weeks in LA.
All through cannabis.
Yeah,
basically just your love of Chronic.
Yeah, my love for Chronic.
You just wanted to smoke the dank like Dr. Dre told you about.
Exactly. And then I got my visa like that. So LA kind of swallowed me. And what you said about the fact that I looked a certain way, I think LA is very much that place that it don't matter what you do. If you look good, the city's gonna accept you in a way. I feel like I must admit that my look opened a lot of doors. Because when I was working in retail, I met two ladies, like older African-American ladies, and they were producers at the time. And right away when they saw me in the store, they were like, "Hey," started conversation. They're like, "I'm producing this French artist in August." It was July, right? In August, I'm producing Mylène Farmer. We need a French person to help us out. And right away, they gave me a job, and I started working as a PA. So I could not do film work, but I did PA on music videos and commercial, say from 95 to like 2000. And then I transitioned from PA to sound engineer, where I recorded sound on commercial and I played playback on music videos. And through that career, I worked with Mary J., P. Diddy, rest in peace. I work with Method Man, Redman. I work with so many of the hip hop like crazies. I work with Khalees. I spent a whole week with Diane Martel, who was the director, in the desert with like Khalees and Pharrell. And there was a lot of shot in the video where it's like a moving truck, and I'm in the back bed of the truck, just me with the sound rig, Pharrell and the director, and it's like, it was so surreal. I'm 21 years old at the time I just arrived. Like, they give me like a huge Motorola and a Thomas Guide and a rental car.
Right.
And I'd be in LA 1 month and like figure it out.
There's also something so French about the idea, or just like you're also the young French guy that seems like it doesn't care. Like Pharrell's probably like, I fuck with that guy. Like he seems like he doesn't give a shit that he's around Pharrell. But you actually might, but it's so French to be like, I'm just kind of doing my thing.
In 96, 97, that probably was the era.
You had to be a little starstruck. A little.
No, but Pharrell was not who he's now.
I guess not.
And he was like a producer.
No.
If I'd been Dr. Dre, by the way, I have a funny story about Dr. Dre. I got booked once.
Well, Mary J was huge.
Yeah, Mary J was huge. And I remember, I have funny stories about that time. My brother started dating this producer that I was telling you about that got me the job. And they married and they had a child and whatnot. But we did a job once. It was a remix of a Mary J song with Method Man and Redman. And me and my brother were Wu-Tang fanatics, like most people in the fucking mid-90s. And at lunch, I had a weed guy that gave me the White Widow. White Widow was the shit at the time.
I remember White Widow, yeah.
And I remember going to, because I was the sound guy, I had to speak to the artist. So I remember going to Method Man and Redman and say, hey, we on lunch break. I got some fucking White Widow. Y'all want to smoke? and they said yes. So we got into their truck. Me and my brother get in the back, and they're in the front, and they're playing beats, and we rolling joint, and they start freestyling, making fun of us. Like totally like...
You and your brother?
Yeah, me and my brother in the back, and Method Man and Redman were just freestyling.
Love that.
Fucking just like... kind of not dissing us in a bad way, but just kind of making fun.
They're playing with you. And they take that back to their homies. They're like, we met these two French dudes. It's real cool. Because they don't see that.
And he was so, but for us, he was like, only in LA could you have this experience. I come from nowhere. Like, I'm not really like from any family. I arrived here and I got lucky, you know, and it was just great era. Like all that music video world. And I got to work with like Michel Gondry and like, it was the whole era of like, when I remember with Michel, we worked on the first music video was Bachelorette for Bjork. It was 97. It's when music videos were a week-long shoot. Like they spent
like movies, not
like
movies are longer, but yeah.
Like, it was short film. Like,
Right, sure.
like for sure. It was, what a great era. What a great era to be like where LA had so many creative people.
Right.
So many. And it was like, it was a golden era still, I think. Especially a music video. The 90s is just...
The best.
It was the best. The directors were amazing.
Yeah.
The Mark Cunningham, the Spike Jones. It was just all.
Yeah, just like like MTV at the time was just like taking off, and everybody watched it. And
it was quite established in '95. MTV was a
MTV's late '80s, but I mean, like I was a teenager in that era. I watched MTV every single day after school. What I'm saying is, like, we were the way kids are tuned into TikTok today.
Completely.
It was MTV for me. So these music videos, and you're a little older than me, and I wasn't working in the '95 to 2000. You were part of creating the things, and many others. I watched. You were making the things that I watched.
We were working on stuff that.
But you were also living like this lifestyle in an era before digital, right? So today the kids are watching kids in like a house making a TikTok. It's just so different.
It's very different because at the time I did a bit of retail, I did the modeling, and I did the PA and the sound designer, and I DJ'd.
That was what I was going to ask. Were you DJing at the time too, looking for gigs?
Dude, I met Jean-Louis, this French guy, at Louis XIV, which was the spa on Melrose.
Yeah,
it was a restaurant club. But he was one of the first guys to have a restaurant in LA with DJs.
Right.
They had a great Monday night there where everybody came, like the Marcus Wyatts,
Marcus.
Yeah, just all those guys. Is it Doc? I can't remember. Anyway, a lot of like big DJs used to be there. And I met Jean-Louis one night. I go by Louis XIV and we strike a conversation, smoke a joint. And I said, I'm a DJ. And he was like, come DJ here. So that's how LA was at the time. You said, I do this. People say, come. Super welcoming. So I had my first residency in LA in November 95. Every Wednesday night.
That's like right when you got here.
At Louis XIV, yeah. And it was called Soul Food. And I played like rare groove, acid jazz, reggae.
Perfect.
Yeah, like African comps. And it was kind of fun. And after that, I did Luna Park, which was a great place. Luna Park, I got to DJ, open for Michel and the Cello. Alexis Arquette, rest in peace, had like a band there and will always perform. Luna Park was on Robertson in Boys Town, north of Melrose, behind Maxfield's. And it was a great place. This guy, Jean-Pierre, who had it, was like a lover of music. So it was a restaurant, a lounge, and a live music. And downstairs, they had stand-up comedy. So that was fun, and I did like Indochine at a residency at LA Indochine on Beverly.
Is that still there?
No, that was late 90s.
Indochine was a restaurant too.
It's still in New York. The original one is still in New York. But
I feel like I've eaten there once or never have, and I wish that I had. It was like Asian fusion
great.
or something.
Asian fusion. I remember there. Yeah, I mean,
I remember it. My parents, my mom and dad used to go there.
I have a crazy story of Anna Nicole Smith there. She came once to hang out, and I had another French model. guy with me, and I was done DJing. And she was like, "Oh, you boys are so cute. Come with us to the Mondrian." The Mondrian was the hottest shit around.
That's the
It was
Sunset Tower now, right?
No. It's this other hotel
Okay.
next to where
I've
the
heard. I
House
know
of
the
Blues used to
Mondrian. I
be.
just thought
The
it was the
Mondrian,
Sunset Tower
He was
now.
whatever
but
Cindy Crawford's husband's name is.
that's the Argyle.
Yeah, he was this guy. He opened that. He was the hottest ticket in town, and we could never go in. Me and the French model, we just walk in there, and the security guy like, "No, you're not on the list," type shit. But we walked that one Friday night. We went with Anna Nicholsmith, and we just walked into we were part of an entourage. And I remember getting in there. It's a funny story. I remember getting in there, and there was this French guy there that saw us hanging out with her, and he was semi paparazzi. He was kind of a shisty character, this guy, and he saw us with Anna Nicholson at a table of 20 people. It was like, "Oh, let me hang out with you guys," and
So Hollywood.
the whole time I made Anna Nicholson think I was Gérard Depardieu's son. The whole time
I love him.
I told
You look
him-
nothing like him.
I know, but I told her, I don't know why. I just told her I was. Anyway, it's so funny. What a weird night. And we're hanging out, and this paparazzi guy just wanted to get so many photos of Anna Nichols that he was just hanging out. And she was playing the game, but she was quite smart. She knew exactly what that guy, she must have smelled. And she kept having him order stuff, and she bounced.
On
And
the bill?
She bounced on the bill, and she let that guy, she left him with like $1,000 bill.
Right.
I thought it was
Which
quite
today
a
would be
G
10 grand.
move.
That is a G
But
move.
through the night, at one point, she started talking about how once she had a boob explode on the plane after like a third or fourth surgery. She was not supposed to get on the plane, and the husband really wanted her to come home. And she just took
I'm
her
sure
stuff
she
down.
had a bunch of crazy.
She took her stuff like half boob down and showed a scar.
and she just had
about
one.
her shit just exploded like crazy. That was the 90s in LA. Like all the meanwhile you have
too
Leonardo
young.
DiCaprio
Missed
and
it.
you have all those guys just hanging out. And
That's
just,
the next era, though, no?
No. Leo was
Too
Leo
early
was-
2000s.
No, 95, 96, 97. Leo was at
But he
all
was
the
like
clubs.
16.
No, we were the same age.
Oh, you
We
was
were
the same age as you?
He was 20, 21, 22. He was early, the Gilbert Grape days.
Right.
And like, he was early and was just hanging out. Exactly the same way you probably see him still now, just do with
Yeah,
like,
he's still doing it.
yeah, with
The boys.
Toby
Yeah,
and all the other boys. But yeah, that was that era.
Luke.
But yeah. It was fun. I mean, it was like for me coming from France, having been raised in Morocco, and just coming from where I come from, I and wanted to work in cinema, to just be around it without working really in cinema. It was kind of wonderful because we don't realize we all kind of have people on pedestal, the Michel Gondrys of the world, the Leonardo, but really all the family, all the people around have a wonderful life.
Right.
The Grapes, the art directors, people
Right.
that make good money, they buy homes. And that's
Yep.
why talking about the strike now, it's so hard. It's like people don't need look at cinema. They just look at who's on the poster.
Right.
But they don't see how all the other communities
That's
and
right.
their family. And
That's the true art.
yeah, and it's a big family. And I realize I don't need to be a director. I don't need to be that to really enjoy myself in that world. Like we don't all get to just be top of the game, but we can still enjoy that lifestyle.
Right.
And at the end of the day, that's what I really wanted more than ever being famous or rich. That was never in my mind, because you gotta want it to get it. I learned that in Hollywood. Every famous rich person
Wants it bad.
wants it bad more than anybody. Like you need to be highly competitive, highly hopefully competent and efficient.
Right.
But if you don't want it, you can still have a wonderful life in that world.
Sure.
With like-minded people, quite marginal.
Yeah.
And people that are very grateful and thankful because we don't have a 9 to 5 and we get to work in culture. And really, it's funny because my IRS status is culture worker. I'm not a star. I'm not an artist. I'm a culture worker. And I love that term. I feel like this is great. I work in culture.
I can't even believe that that's actually something that you can put on a
I'm a culture worker.
visa.
Yeah, not on a visa, but like
Like on
IRS,
the
like a
IRS,
financial status.
Right.
I'm a culture worker.
You fill that in other, or is it an actual box that they
No, it's pretty much what it comes down to. I don't know if I made up the term or if
Understood. Yeah.
But it's kind of like I'm a culture worker. I work.
That's
in
exactly
culture.
what you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me.
And I love that.
I wanted to ask
He has a blue
two
collar to
things.
him. Yeah.
KCRW. When did that start? And then also Bar Marmont.
Well, KCRW started in 2006. I met Garth Trinidad in '99. We shared a manager at the time, Ozia Shine, who started Fusicology. Fusicology is a great underground promotion company who brings everybody. In the 90s, she brought Peven Everett. She would bring Questlove, DJ Spinna, Theo Parrish, Moody Man, like she's just been on the ground. She's from Chicago. She's a house head. She's still around. Musicology still exists. But I had a home studio at the time. In 97, through my production work, I met a couple of people that were making beats, and I started getting into hip hop and using my records as sample with my man Fat Jack, who was part of the project Blow World, and we started making beats together and selling beats and doing all of that. And so I had a studio at my house. I lived in Silver Lake at the time, off of Sunset, and Ozzy, I was like, Garth is looking for a place to record some stuff. She knew I had a studio, so she brought Garth to my studio. And Garth is a Pisces like me. We love music. We became instant friend. We started DJing.
Happy birthday! I didn't even realize.
Yeah, thank you. We started DJing together in maybe 2001 at Zanzibar in Santa Monica, 5th and Arizona. We did every Sunday night. And we DJed together from like 2001 till 2007, 8.
Yep.
And as we were doing weekly DJs together, in 2006 was an opportunity to join KCRW. It was the first opening in, I think, 12 or 13 years that it was possible to become a KCRW DJ. Like, anybody that had that job never went anywhere. It was such a good...
Was it any good before 2006, the station?
Oh, yeah. I mean, KCRW through the 70s was the best year ever was Tom Schnabel. When Tom Schnabel created Modern Becomes Eclectic, created and founded pretty much...
yes, I don't know the history of KCRW. I didn't realize that.
I mean, Ravi Shankar, Peter Tosh, Fela Kuti, everybody who came to the studio through the 70s, and that was all Tom Schnabel doing. Like, he's the guy that really created KCRW with Ruth Seymour, who passed away recently. They were the maverick. They were the real... What people's idea of KCRW is still linked to what those guys created. When Nick Harcourt, Chris Doritas, Jason came and did Morning Becomes Eclectic, they did their version of it. But the true eclecticism and the true love of real good music, the real scholar, the real foundation is Tom Schnabel. He's the Don. He's the godfather of KCRW. So he was a wonderful
Is that like a
station.
unanimous perspective, do you feel like?
Oh, absolutely. For any heads, anybody that knows the story of the station, anybody at the station will tell you that.
Okay.
Then there is evolution, and we don't rest on our laurel. It's America.
Because I feel like when it became more eclectic. Like
it became less eclectic. When let me tell you one thing. In the 90s and the 2000s,
I think there's two ways to look at this, but I want to hear you say it because you were there.
In the 90s and 2000, early 2000, KCRW had a blues show, a gospel show, a soul show, a reggae show. Mm-hmm. Like people that were really only playing one thing. It became, your idea of eclectic is the fact that everybody now plays everything. You know, like everybody's like a bit versed in all the styles.
So you're saying it merged together a little bit too much. Each show kind of sounded.
But before it was more eclectic in the sense that the people were really the best at what they did, and they did those shows. And specific
to a specific genre.
So
it became. I guess that's a better way to say it.
And altogether was really eclectic because you had everything as a whole. Then with the data and everything, they realized in the mid 2000s when I arrived there that people were actually listening to KCRW more than one show. So they were like...
Tie it together better.
So
they'll tune in longer if we all kind of tie...
Exactly. So people...
less eclectic.
Because it became an institution.
I agree with that.
Once the institution is built, people they come for the institution.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
So now that's what it becomes. So it's still a very eclectic, more than any other station in this country.
I guess I was just thinking, like, what's his name? The rocker?
Nick Harcourt?
No, Henry, he had a show too.
Yeah, of course.
But wasn't his really focused on like his kind of music? He's a punk.
Henry Rollins.
Yeah, isn't his like pretty?
Oh, completely. But Henry will play anything. He'll play ska. He'll play like
so he'll
rock
kind of
steady.
So he'll go.
Yeah, but in his own way. Because if you love music, you love all music.
Right.
If you're really a music head, you find good music in all genres.
Not all. Like
in all genres. I don't like metal. But
there are a couple tracks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are moments in every music because music is moments.
Yeah.
And anybody can catch a moment.
Yeah, it just resonates with your soul and you don't know why, but you're like, yeah.
And that's the music you're talking about.
Right.
So KCRW for me in 2006, I remember Garth was like, hey, player, that's how he calls me, player. Hey, player, there's an opening at KCRW. Do you want to do a demo? And I was like, man, I have a French accent. I don't know about radio. But they take me to the studio with Anlet and I do a demo. And they put me on. I got my show on like December 2006 on a Friday and midnight to 3. And that's how I got in the station. And I stayed till 2020, till the pandemic, where me and Garth and Aaron Bird and Mario Cotto, Liza Richardson, we all kind of took a severance and left. At that point, the station had really changed into something else. We left our basement studio, which was so dear to most of us, where you still had the ghost of Ravi Shankar, Fela Kuti, Lou Reed.
Right. Yeah.
You know, he had that. He was in the juice. The real juice. You were in that studio. You felt it. And then they built a $30 million swanky building.
No.
It's like a brand new shoe or a brand new car. You're happy because it's brand new, but where's the soul?
Right.
You know, like it was strange. But anyway, so that was my KCRW thing. It was great. I think for me, because I'm not in my DJ world, I'm not like a club DJ. I'm not really a remixer artist where I did a lot of music and I tour as an artist. I'm more like a service DJ, you know. I'm not a turntablist where it's never about me. It's more about the music I play. So the station really helped me. He played to my strength as a curator, as a record digger, as somebody that knows and wants to share music. And he allowed me to cement my place in the LA culture and be more credible. He helped me a lot. It was a really turning point in my music career. KCRW, and that's thanks to Garth and just the whole journey, the whole life.
I feel like a highlight of your career, from my perspective, is this the Chef soundtrack.
It all kind of
I don't know, but
together.
I think even if, like, look, dude, that soundtrack to me, in terms of just like movie soundtracks, is so fucking good. And it's funny because sometimes I'll say that, and I'll say it a lot actually, if it's ever right. And someone will say to me, they'll be like, yeah, I fucking love that soundtrack. And I'm like, you get it.
Yeah. It's 10 years old now. Can you imagine? He came out, May 9th or something.
How does
like
it
that.
work? Like, I feel like that soundtrack should catapult you into a career of literally only doing movie soundtracks. Like, but it's not really like a score, right? Because none of it's original. It's track selected.
Yeah, it's tracks, but we used it as score. There was nobody making score in that film. We used only cues.
Right.
So, when you do a movie, you either have a score or cues or both. And most movies are score and cues. It's rare to have a movie that's only cues, you take any Scorsese movie, you use a shit ton of cues.
Can we describe this for like the layman, the difference between a cue and a score?
So a score, you would get a film composer composing music for the image.
The image is done, he's scoring the film.
Exactly.
Right.
And a cue is something that already exists that you put onto a scene, which is a fairly new thing.
Got it.
Traditionally,
which is what you did for Chef. You cued music to Chef's vibe.
And half of the Chef's soundtrack is my playlist from Zanzibar. Isn't it crazy?
No, but it just changes the whole film. Like, without that soundtrack, it's just, to me, a completely different film.
Yeah.
Like, the selection of sort of like Latin, reggae, there's just so much more. Like, I don't know, like Martinique, like that's like, what is that? It's like,
but we have everything, and we have the music because we go through Austin, we go through Miami. We kind of, it's kind of diaspora.
Gary Clark. And
it's a bit of a diaspora of American culture. We go through all the American style of music, the brass band, the Latin stuff,
the track selection,
and the funk, and like he has a bit of everything in there. We have, with Gary, we have a bit of that rock country vibe.
Yep.
It's just, it's the genius of John Favreau. Is a master orchestrator, and he's one of the best kind of directors where his ego is not about I need to make all the decision. When he brought me on at the script level, he always made me feel like he was like my choice. So
what was his high level direction to you for that?
He empowered me. He's like, Mathieu, we are looking for aces, kings, and queens. So only songs that's either an ace, a king, or a queen. It's like he really wanted me to just get the best of all the genre. And he really wanted, I had all the time, where we edited in his office.
A great budget.
Well, it's funny. With the budget was really low. It was way too low when we started, and we ended up spending almost $1 million on the soundtrack. But
because you probably played some songs over some scenes, and he went, "Oh shit, we gotta have that."
It's funny because I played him the brass band version of "Sexual Healing" from Hot Ace Brass Band, which I used to close my set all the time with at Zanzibar. And when he heard that song, he went back and rewrote it in the scene of him and John and the kid driving off and singing that song.
It.
Yeah, he actually included it in the script because I met him at the script level. So when I started playing him music and he decided I was the right person for the job, he started taking some of the cues and incorporating in the film. And when you use a song in the film and the talent sings the song, especially a song of Sexual Healing's stature, it costs a fortune.
Yeah.
because you pay for the song and you pay for the performance right of somebody singing the song on screen.
Wow.
So it becomes really technical. And yeah, we spent $1 million, but it was a $13 million movie. It's worth it.
I feel like that film did well.
The movie did extremely well. I think I think that movie made like $50 million.
It's kind of like a cult classic in a way.
He kind of is. He kind of is
food movie.
He was like the first kind of film where he had like the burps from Twitter just showing up.
The truck era and food festival.
Roy Choi being the godfather of the truck.
Totally.
The food truck
like if
culture.
I watch it in 20 years, I will remember that 2010 to 13 era, and
Venice,
that completely
Albertini.
Captures it.
Completely.
Cross country driving, the Twitter pop-ups. He joins Twitter, like the music, and then
and the Latin character with the white character
and
the
Sofia
black
Vergara's
music.
in it. So that's
he was great. Oh, Sofia was great.
I'm sure she
Sofia
was.
great. She was great. She's so funny because she's such the old school movie star. Whenever she
is,
moved,
yeah.
everywhere she moved, there's 4 or 5 people around. The assistant, the hair, the makeup. Like
I
it's
love
just
that.
like it's like a like just all moving as a crew like
She
that.
deserves it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And she's great. And Chef was great. John is like, it was a life-changing moment. But to answer your question about not
How's
only
that-
getting work, there's not many people like Jon Favreau who have real vision. You know, if you think about John is in the world of J.J. Abrams, Steven Spielberg. Like, he's a true creator.
That's a huge compliment.
He doesn't really need to other people's opinion. Like, he's very secure in what he likes. He's a highly intelligent person, and he knows exactly what he wants to do. And he recognized what I could offer. And I don't think a lot of other directors they're more caught up in trying to be someone else rather than be themselves. And John he always was himself with Vince Vaughn. They just made it by being themselves, swingers, all of that. He was not trying to be Tarantino. He was not trying to be anybody else. He was himself first, so he has a voice. And I feel I work more and better with people who have a voice. They can see, and there's no ego. After that, I work with a lot of directors where they want, kind of like what you did for Chef, but they want it to be all about them. They made the decision. They're like, I know that track. It's like, why are you hiring me? Like, John hired me. John knows music. He can DJ, he can scratch. He's incredible. Yeah, DJ M, when he worked on Iron Man, started teaching him, and John is good at everything. He's the kind of guy that can do anything, can sing. And some people are annoyingly talented like that. He's one of those. And I think a lot of other directors are a lot more about themselves, because and it's not a diss. It's like you need an ego to make it in this business. And I think their ego is maybe in that sense is probably, it's maybe misplaced.
Or their vision is just more influenced and more like less original. I don't know.
And you know what's funny? It's like
they're also being told what to do and kind of maybe just following, like they don't want to take as many risks.
Yeah, when I moved here in 95, I really wanted to already do music supervision because Tarantino, and I'd been blown away by Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, and that was right up my alley.
Another incredible soundtrack.
Yeah, so when I moved here in 95, that guy Jonathan from 26 Red I was telling you about lived on Crescent Heights, and Tarantino lived 3 doors down on Crescent Heights Boulevard. And I can't remember how I came to find out, and I made a mixtape of songs because I was like, Pulp Fiction is dope, but you could have also used that. I did not understand what a classic was. I never did, but I was gonna put it in his mailbox as like a tape. Years later, I get to meet him through friends, and I get to spend time with him, and even bought him records once for his birthday, and like he showed me his record room at his house, and we smoke weed and we talk about records. He explained to me that most song in his movies he likes when he digitizes records, so he hears his actual record on his film.
Right, yeah, because you can hear
the statics and all that noise. He's my dream of working for him at that time was it was just a dream, but it took me so many years because you're talking 95 and I booked Chef in 2014.
Right,
so this whole time you're like, all I need to do is walk in the door. As soon as I get my opportunity and I'm in the door, it's gonna be all right. And I get the best opportunity possible. I show myself the best way possible, and still nothing happens.
Right.
It took me a while to get another film. Like John hooked me up with Vince Vaughn. I did a Vince Vaughn movie that didn't do so well after, but it's been really hard to get more work because at the end of the day, I don't really know it. I don't think there's a formula for any of it, but definitely the assumption that just getting in the door is the top of the mountain is fake. You basically, once you get in the door, you see the real mountains.
Yeah.
There's so you hike one mountain to get to that first door, and you're like happy, and you're like, now I can just focus on just, working. But then once you arrive and you cross that door, you're like, oh shit, there's so many other mountains to climb. Like it never stops.
Does
So
John make a lot of films? Like
John, since the last 10 years,
not as many. He's
No,
not
but
like one a year.
he became a really Disney director because he
Oh.
did The Lion King, and he did The Jungle Book. And I think Disney and him have such a fruitful, successful partnership that they need him. So when they purchased Star Wars, I think they asked him, what would you do with Star Wars? And he came up with The Mandalorian. And
He did Mandalorian?
yeah, he created Mandalorian out of his, like he was like, let's take one character from Star Wars.
Yeah, he is fucking
And
good.
yeah, he's a genius.
Yeah.
Like Mandalorian is genius. Like take one character and completely recreate. So I think that relationship is so beneficial to both of them. And John also loved new technology, and I think in that world he really gets to work with new style of cameras, with all the, he's just in a perfect
He's just
place.
operating at another level too mentally.
Yeah, I'm
obviously.
like, I would love for him to do another Chef. After Chef, we did
not
the
another
show.
chef, but like another independent.
Independent, yeah. And he probably still will, for sure.
I hope he calls you.
I hope he calls me.
Because
too,
there's a lot of power to a soundtrack like that with the right communities of people. That's all.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. But it's a journey. Working in the film industry, it's a journey, and there's a lot of competition. I think there's about 500 music supervisors in LA now. It's probably even more. I think it's about 10 or 11,000 composers.
Right.
Like
lot.
in terms of like people here to put music to image, it's it's a highly competitive. And same for you as eyewear, like.
Oh yeah,
it's
more than
highly
ever now. Yeah.
Yeah,
highly
more
competitive.
than ever. It's more people. It's more money. Everything is growing.
Yeah, and a lot of it's tough too because it's so data based now. So it's like certain, you know what I mean? Like
You love sports, right?
Yeah, of
I
course.
love sports. My sport is football, soccer.
yeah,
Data in soccer, I'm not a big fan. I think he works against. I understand data for.
are they doing that now in soccer a lot?
Especially when we look at in America, they're like, he ran for 10 miles. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Oh,
how
right,
many miles. Talk about the man. Like, I just want to me, like, sport is like opera. Data is the antithesis of
It's
opera.
poetry.
Yeah.
It's chemistry, it's poetry,
Yeah, and I want to
talent,
the human level. And that's
physics.
what I'm more into. And when it becomes all data and all like suits and tie, it's like lawyers and Wall Street guy talking about sport.
Well,
And
I can only
fucking
speak
hate
about it because there's been movies about it, but the data, like baseball data, where it's like they use averages to put players into positions based on the average, and then over time that will work out better.
That for the actual people that run the club and the team.
Sure.
And that I understand to maximize performance. But the data in our world of like when the commentators that tell,
Yeah.
I don't need that data.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk to me about the human.
No, they're just trying to fill airtime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I feel like data, and I like data for certain things, but I also think it really, data is anti-poetry. Data
Ruins music. I mean, I know.
Yeah, all of it. Data.
Not all of it, but music.
Data, algorithm, all those words, all those concepts are kind of tied into an era that doesn't really tickle my fancy.
Well, it's about performance and results.
It's very commercial.
Commercial
Yeah,
performance and
yeah.
results, right? So data can help you discover what audiences like, and then it results in a high yield of revenue because you targeted. But like music lovers like us, I mean, it only comes from no data. It's like from the soul, passion, life, experience, conversation, trial, error.
Exactly.
You turn shit, into something amazing because you worked on it so many times.
My algorithm will be the guy who owns a record store, and he's like knows you because you come there every week, and he knows what you like, and he's like, hey, let me pull this for you. And there's a trust there. Who trusts the algorithm now? Like it's dehumanizing.
Right.
What I don't like about it is that it's replacing the human connection.
Right.
So I'm all for evolution. I'm all for AI. I think AI as science is wonderful. AI as commerce, maybe not so much.
Yep.
Also, AI in the hand of the people who we know is in the hand of. Like, do we trust them? Are they going to do the right thing with it? Probably not. So there is a conundrum there. Like, I love the evolution and scientific aspect of it, but I also hate the application.
Right.
Same with algorithm. Maybe Spotify is a good idea, but then the behind of Spotify, this is a $1 billion company that apparently runs without making profit, but they're growing exponentially every year. So the shareholders are all making their money. Everybody get their bonuses, but they don't have to pay taxes because they don't make profit, and they don't have to pay artists because they're not making profit.
Right.
But we're back in like the early 1920s where those new guys on the block came in with the new technology, and they're taking over entertainment, and they're taking no prisoners. They don't want to share anything. It's like, this is what we do now. you're not going to get any money. Fight us for the next 10, 20 years to get your fair share and get your union. And then we'll give you money. But at that time,
we'll be
20
done.
years, exactly.
We'll have made our money.
So it's sad. It's sad that all those people that are so-called lovers of arts and movies and film and music are all like here for the arts. But really, at the end of the day, it's all about money and commerce. And
It really is.
it's just a bit sad because it's like music and film. It's like reading and sports. It's human stuff. And it's
also
like,
design and everything.
Yeah.
All the
It's
things, all the
something
creative
that
things that we love. Whatever.
you can dehumanize it too much. And I think now, I don't know, it's because we're too many people in the planet that as human, we feel less special to one another because it's so many of us. You know, like the fact that we carry on living while millions of people get bombed and killed like every year.
Yeah, you don't even think
It's
about
like,
it.
you don't think about it. It's 8 billion. You're like, dude, I'm trying to pay rent. Not to talk about politics, but the reason also why so many minorities in countries such as Europe and America tend to start voting for right-wing politicians. And it's always weird. You're like, oh, you're Moroccan in France, but you're going to vote for Le Pen. And you're like, why would you do that? And the thinking is like, I'm an immigrant. Life is so hard here. I don't want more immigrants coming in because they're going to take my job.
Yeah.
So it's a self-protection thing. But all of this kind of tie-in of where we are, where we're like, there's so many of us that it's making us make choices that are just questionable and less
More selfish. Too.
more selfish, more individualistic, less from the heart.
I find myself doing that all the time.
No, but we all do to a certain extent. But me in music, what drew me to music and what carried my life and why I've been working in music for 29 years is that simple song that penetrates you.
But you can't fake it with music. It's impossible. So like I make an analogy that may not make sense, but like I'm not necessarily proud of it. But like recently in the last few years, I've really divested from like buying clothes for myself, unless it's like salvage vintage, or I hate to say it, sometimes it can be like Zara because they do like a new trend and it's very cheap. I want to support my friends' brands, but they're just so expensive and I can't get as much stuff unless I'm trading something. And I'll go to Zara, or I hate to say it, like even Abercrombie makes like a nice shirt, right?
Right.
And I can kind of fake it, the white shirt from Abercrombie. There's no version of music that you can do that to me. You can't sugarcoat a Bob Marley experience. It's like it either is the good product or it's fucking not. That's what I think. Is that an analogy that makes sense?
No, completely.
You wouldn't be able to sell me a song that isn't actually good, but you've convinced me it is somehow by painting it with, not me anyways, by painting it with like a certain person that sang it. Like it's never been about the person. It's always the song got me first, and then you see the person, like an Andre 3000, you're like, oh shit, like the human and the music is dope.
But in clothing, you
can fake it.
You can fake it till you touch the shirt and you see the difference between a Zara cotton and then you know what I mean? Like there is definitely.
But I'm touching the shirt, not you.
Yeah.
And like I paid $11 for this, and that one's a James Purse for $110 or whatever it is. It's
or like whatever. Like you're talking even more $500 shirt.
Sure, or Laura Piana or something for $500. Right?
I have the same thing.
I don't know if that's a valuable analogy. It's just interesting. You can't fake the funk with music.
No,
like it's impossible.
No, I have the same thing with the hi-fi world. Like people who buy, like I have a wonderful simple system that probably costs $5,000, and it really gets everything I need from music. But then I know people who are gonna spend $200,000 for a
like the whole thing, yeah.
And I'm like, the difference in money, my ear doesn't make the difference. Like what I hear at 5,000 and what you hear at 200,000.
No, it's just the aesthetic and it's the association with what you bought.
Yeah, and
you have the thing.
I can hear a subtle difference, no problem, but it's not worth $195,000. The difference that I'm hearing. But for certain people, it is.
Would you say at a lower level, because I did watch the Beats documentary, would you say that headphone for $250 you can hear different than just the stock $60 headphone?
I think that $250. I think the components.
Or it actually might have been $300 or more.
The Beats by Dre. I'm not sure what components and what material they use.
They talked a lot about how he really like made that perfect.
Yeah, I'm sure they did a lot of R&D and really develop it. But the actual metal that they use, I think it's the same that other company uses.
Sure.
Your glasses to another guy is the same.
Right.
Acetate is the same.
It's just the brand. You're saying you're paying for the brand.
I think you are a lot because I think
no diss against Dre or Phil or Ivy.
It's a business.
I was asking a question.
It's a business.
Yeah.
I think they probably are very similar or not that far off from Audio Technica.
Right, which may be half the price. Yeah.
$75 in terms of material used.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not a manufacturer, but I don't know how many
Sure.
level of metals you
But
can
you've
use. And
no, but you've
magnets
listened. You've used
Yeah.
Beats and you've used
I think for me,
Apple
for Beats by
headphones.
Dre is way too bassy to be that close to my ears. Like I don't find it's too healthy for me to have so much bass that close. And I like bass to be out of a cage.
You also
Like,
strike me as someone who doesn't listen to music on headphones very often. Unless you're
on the
working.
plane, on the plane,
Right,
on the
yeah.
plane, and when I DJ. But I also like, because what I love with music is music mixed with life sound.
Environment. Yeah, you want
I
it to
hear a car, I hear a
You like-
bird,
yeah, I know.
and it becomes my song. All of a sudden, that song I heard with that bird, so that like it just
I'm
becomes.
sure you have a
better.
cup of coffee in the morning, you put something on,
Yeah.
and
you hear it
you hear
with
the
life.
bird, and
Yeah.
then it's this moment.
Yeah. It's a very interesting thing, but
Big deal.
yeah. Music. I mean, music. is
Soundtrack
still,
of our life.
Music, I think, is still, minus your parents and your loved one, probably the best companion that we have in life. Like, you can be alone with the greatest music and not feel alone. The greatest record encompasses the entire humanity. Like, you can feel all the sets of it. You have a Bob Marley album with you on a desert island, you'll never feel lonely. You'll always
So
be
that-
able to remember what humanity was.
This is why people that are void of music scare the shit out of me. Because look, you're going to lose your parents and you may not have a loved one, but if you have music, you're not alone.
Yeah, and that music will also have memories tied into that loved one and to that mother. Hopefully,
Exactly.
if you have
Yeah,
that
yeah,
life. So,
yeah.
music is probably. I would take a record over a pet as a companion. If I had to choose between a dog and a record,
Me too.
as companionship,
Yeah.
I would take a record.
Yep.
Personally, and I think it is that's
Of
why
all the creative things you could do, maybe I would take like a architectural masterpiece over a record, but
yeah.
'Cause-
But on a desert island, what are you gonna do with your
On a
with a style house
on a
on
desert-
a desert island? I don't mind being on a desert island. Just bring me this wonderful.
would you rather live in a shack with good music or an architectural masterpiece with no music for the rest of your life?
In a shack with great music for sure.
That's
On the
great.
beach.
I love that. A lot of people would not agree with that.
yeah,
I'm actually torn on that one.
I would be because
Because you can't live without music.
my idea of a shack, I'm on top of a dune in front of.
As long as we're not starving, yeah.
Yeah, and I have fresh fruit and like
Yeah,
I'm chilling.
yeah.
I'm in the Caribbean somewhere in a shack with good music.
Dude, that's how good
I don't
music
need-
is, dude.
Yeah. I'm telling you, music.
It's better than a
For me-
castle.
For me, because I moved here at 20, and my sister, when I moved here, finally moved back home. So I was quite alone here at 20, so far from my family. And if it was not for music to stay with me, I don't think I could have done it. LA is a lonely place.
Yeah.
If you don't have family here and friends, I mean, European and American relationships are very different. I've come to find out that American people are very generous in a professional manner, but maybe less generous in a personal work. And France is the opposite. French people, I'm generalizing here.
No, I know
French
what you're
people
saying,
are
though.
very generous in a personal
Sure.
life. Like you meet a French person, they'll take
Come
you
into my
you'll
home.
meet the parent. At work, a bit more gatekeeping.
Sure.
And, it comes also for the fact that in America, we have abundance of work. There's so
I would
much
agree
stuff,
with that.
And France, we have less.
In America, if someone walks up to your door, you're like, who the fuck is there?
Yeah, I mean, you never drop on somebody's home in France. I grew up in Morocco or in France. Everybody drops, and all my friends, I know their parents.
Yeah, you just walk in.
I have an American friend of 30 years. I never met their parents.
Right, right.
You're half Latino. I've met your parents.
You've
You've
met my parents,
Yeah, of course, and your sister. I met your family, but that's probably the Latin version of
Maybe,
you.
yeah, my mom's family's like that.
Exactly. Where I think I have friends here, like I said, for 30 years, and we're really good friends, and we work together. But they don't know my parents. I don't know their parents. It's
Sure.
different.
Yeah. If it was in France or
it's quite
Morocco,
isolating.
everybody would know.
Exactly.
Everybody, yeah.
So LA is isolating. Also, it's a very introverting experience because you're driving, and as soon as you drive, you're in introvert mode. You're not walking around. In New York, you're never in introvert mode because you have to deal with so much things coming at you in the street.
Yeah,
the
for
sound of
sure.
People.
Yeah,
But here
cars,
in the
whatever.
car, all you have to be is just make sure you do you, and you're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
And so LA gets lonely because of that. And without good music, I don't think I could have stayed here. And when people look at me and say, how can you live in LA? How can you be here for so long? Or my Parisian friends or friends who live in Tokyo. And I'm like, I think it's just the good music that I listen to.
You
I
would
could
take
be
that good
anywhere.
music with you anywhere. But
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it makes LA that much better. You have the sunshine, you have the music, you have maybe a little split.
I know, but you're like, we're the same, and like, you're always like, you know how to like take a positive approach. Like, you know what I mean? You're going to find what
Yeah.
brings you joy and make sure that it's heavily incorporated into your life on a daily basis as much as possible.
Yeah, I don't really have a reason to wake up and be depressed, like, and some people are wired this way and feel bad. We all come.
I'm not depressed. I'm a little wired that way, but I'm going to always try to find the positive in everything.
We are sensitive.
I get
human
you get in your head and
Of
you can
course.
think, have conversations and
it's hard to escape
negative,
nowadays with
but
social media because we are
it
bombarded
makes it
with
worse, too.
information and
yeah, and everybody's on an island there, always fucking traveling and on boats, and it's not depressing, but it's like it can make you get negative
music was a bit more special too.
until you turn a good song on.
Yeah,
then you
but
just forget everything.
Music was a bit more special too before all of that. Music now is such a commodity that music is everywhere. You go to any stores, any grocery stores, people with their portable speakers, you can hear music everywhere. Music is not as impactful as it once was. I don't know if you remember the era where you had one album and you played the shit out of it for like a whole month.
How the fuck would I
A
not
whole
remember that
year.
era? That's
Yeah.
literally my whole life.
Yeah.
I think about this all the time. There's no more good albums.
Well,
They like Kendrick, like Damn was
it's not really
that
an
was
album
10 years
culture
ago now,
anymore.
though.
It's not really an album culture.
No, it's
so much
hits or
anymore.
TikTok. Like it's like
Yeah.
It's
And-
not
and-
even a song culture. It's 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's a commerce thing because I remember also growing up, you had one pair of Air Max, you keep that for the year.
Right.
You had one pair of 501, that was the whole school year.
That's right.
And same with music. So we really took time to really connect with
Perfect
those artists
albums.
and people had that's what they needed to aspire to make
Right.
sure because they knew people would listen to the album over and over. And also that era, the great era of music of 70s, 60s, 80s, it takes a village. Behind Marvin Gaye album, there's 100 professional at the height of their craft.
That's right.
You have the best arranger, the best string section, the best coordinator.
They're all
the best
smoking the same
producer.
shit too.
But everybody's the
They're on
best
the
of their
same-
game. And,
they're on
and
the same level.
Today's music is one guy, maybe in his bedroom making beats, or maybe a few of songwriters. So it's very different.
yeah.
It's more insular.
Yeah.
And it's less about quality. It's more about, and people make
Quantity, for sure.
It's very
Yeah.
different. Not to compare, because you can't compare the era and technology has changed and habits have changed. But
Plus, also, we are always going to look back and say this was better or that. I mean,
course,
generation. My
we-
dad did that when I was a kid.
we all do it. We
Yeah.
all do it. When the Beatles came out, the blues head were like, "What's that garbage?"
Yeah.
Like it's the same. And now the Beatles
I remember
are like-
listening to like Chili Peppers or like fucking Rage or No Doubt or some of those bands, and my dad hearing it and being like, "What is this shit?"
Exactly.
But it's not shit. It was just great music.
It's
If
great
it's
music, it's an era. And you're supposed to be that. It's
Sublime
it's
or
the
whatever
test
it
of
is.
time.
Sure. Yeah.
You're supposed to. Kids are supposed to like things that we don't get.
yeah.
Like,
Actually, I don't want to do my dad dirty. He's actually really always very cool. He didn't say what is this shit. He just was. You could see he was just like, I don't hear it, but like my dad's really cool about always being like, tell me more about the youth. Like
Yeah,
this is
but
what you
because-
like. He
because-
never was like that.
because he remembered
but I
what he
could see
liked.
in his face that he was just like, if he heard Rage, he's just like, well, okay,
this is kind of
this isn't Jimmy. Like
Yeah.
what you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
Music, man. Music.
Yeah, I could talk about music forever. Clearly,
Music ties us all together.
I'm glad that we spent that much time on it. Hopefully, whoever's listening is also passionate about music. We
probably
got to
was-
wrap it up soon. What else? Is there anything we want to talk? Well, 1:30.
shit, yeah.
It goes by fast
Yeah, but it's good.
when we're good
No,
friends
I
like
mean,
us.
Yeah. Well, I think all in all, if you choose a life that resonate with you,
Yeah,
wherever you are in the world, I think you'll have a good time. And I'm really blessed. I arrived here at the moment I did. I get to live through all that era and just be part of the culture. Just even most of the time as an observer, just be
Right.
around and see what was happening and get to mingle with heroes, meet heroes. And
right.
blessed. Like LA is such a wonderful bubble. I'm a LA lover. I've
Yeah,
had
you
like
are.
my ex-girlfriend born and raised in LA. She's like, why you like LA so much? She hated LA. She wanted to get the fuck out of here.
But not a huge
And
fan of
I'm-
America, but you love LA.
Yeah, because LA is not America. I remember Tom Schnabel, he said when he traveled, he's Californian. He traveled in the world. He never told people he was American.
said
He always said I'm
Californian.
Californian. Because California is striving to be the best version of America he can possibly be. It might not be real or still true.
Well, it's an idea.
But it's an idea, It's a bit more utopic and we're trying to do things a different way.
Right.
And America, it's hard to look at it without taking the bad. You have to take the good and the bad. And same with France and any countries. Morocco is not just beautiful food and beautiful people. There's also horrible politics and like repression and but people are still happy. Like we always gonna strive. Same we were talking about the homeless. They're still in their condition. They're still striving to be human and make the best out of their situation.
Sure.
As hard as it is, So
No, I think
I am a LA lover in the sense that LA is giving me a lot.
Yeah.
And I want this to be an ode to LA because you're LA boy, you were born. LA gives us a lot. We have great here. We have space. We can
Right.
be whoever we want to be. You can, if tomorrow I want to be a real estate agent or a lawyer, everybody's going to be, go for it. Like,
Right.
you know, there's nowhere in the world where you can just keep reinventing yourself and
True.
still getting like support and be able to do it. And, you know, it's still, you know, you can say a lot of bad stuff about LA, but you can also say about the good stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, LA is giving me such a wonderful life that I can only just look mostly at the good stuff. I still accept the bad stuff, like anywhere we are. Like Paris is wonderful. They have this beautiful museum, beautiful culture, beautiful food, space to have lunch for 2 hours. You break your arm or your leg, it's going to cost you $1. You keep carrying on. Like, we all together. There's a society. But there's also a horrible aspect of it, you
Yeah.
know? Like, so, you know, pros and cons of life. As you get older, you just have to accept it. And I think LA, for me, has more good than bad.
Yeah,
you know?
I think I've been thinking about that a lot lately too, just in terms of like what I'm passionate about, and it's cliche, and I'm sure you can find it on all the time being said, but you know, it just takes LA. I don't know if it's LA or whatever it is like a certain level of belief in yourself that you can do whatever you want, and then a certain self-awareness about what the things that you are that are passionate about, and then just constantly, as you get older, staying in touch with that feeling and then chasing it. And I think this lifestyle here and the support of the community on the positive side allows you to be able to dream that you can do those things. Like you said, whether one day you wake up and you say, you know what, I want to be the best real estate agent. You can do that.
You can do that.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm passionate about real estate, but like as I've gotten older, I've found it more interesting. I haven't yet woken up and said, I want to be a real estate agent, but certainly could at some point.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Go do that course for 3-4 months.
Yeah,
and
get
just
your
be
license
into it.
or whatever it might be as you grow older. When you're young, I think you don't think about that as much, but you sort of inherently chase things that you're passionate about because you just don't know any better. But when you're older, you
Yeah.
kind of have to think a little bit more like, what am I actually really in love with?
And you're a father too, and you also see an industry that you started maybe over 15 years ago that's changing a lot. I'm seeing what's happening to music and the film world, and I'm really scared because
Right.
that's all I know.
Right.
I've worked 30 years in those industry, and it's like what's happening. I mean, people are gonna need entertainment, so it's not gonna go away.
No.
But where is it going?
The
What's
opportunity
happening?
might be something that you're not passionate about anymore because it's changed so much.
It's changed so much, but it's like, what else is there to do? You know, like for me, you know, and living in LA, which is the entertainment capital of the world, like I'm all happy for the Spotify of the world, for the evolution, as we said, but like, don't come into a culture that exists and just take over for the worse.
Right.
Come in a space to make it better.
Yeah.
And yes, to a certain extent, you can argue that Spotify have made certain things better, but you can also argue that not, because it's at the expense of a lot of livelihood.
Sure.
Just for one person to be a billionaire.
That's right.
I truly believe in society, I much rather have 1,000 millionaire than 1 billionaire. I feel for the economy, 1,000 millionaire are going to start businesses, going to help family.
Yeah.
It's a lot more beneficial to all of us than 1 billionaire who is trying to dodge putting money back in the pot where he took it.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that except for that one billionaire and then a couple people that are really
but
close
even there
to
are
being...
billionaires over there that realize that money is not everything. They're not corrupted. I truly believe that the people that cannot be happy with more than $2 or $3 million a year should go to rehab, because I feel like money is a drug.
Yeah.
Like every other substance, and you get completely taken over by money. Right. You want more, and like the same way you do with sugar, the same way you do with weed, with alcohol. You're like, I need more, I want more. So it hits that same addictive part of our brain, and we need to just talk about that. As a society, we don't really talk about the addiction to money in a sense where it could be a health hazard. And I think some people, especially when you see the CEOs of all those platforms who want to get paid $100 million a year while they're profiting from someone's art who's not making a dime or barely making ends meet. What's the point? Like, where are you going with all this money? We're all going in the same place, which is back in the dirt. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, you're safe. You have 2 million, you have one home that you own, you're safe. Like, what are you, like, I don't get it.
It's also, it can also be irresponsible to have no relationship with money though, too. Like, just not care at all. That can also be irresponsible.
Yeah, but there's
like really bad with it and not.
Yeah, of course. You just always want the happy medium.
Yeah, you need to find a balance.
All
right.
Well, be reasonable.
Balance is a good way to end.
Yeah, balance and reason.
Love
Hey,
you,
thank you for
Mathieu.
having me, man. Thank you for
Of
us.
course, it took too long.
You know, for
You're
us,
the best.
with a
My
couple
brother.
of coffee,
Yeah.
my brothers, a couple of coffee, we can talk for days.
Well, we're gonna go have lunch now, probably.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Let's go do something. Much love, Garrett Leight.
love.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.